Hello. Imagine a world where we could all learn from the wisdom of others. What could we achieve? Over the last decade, I've been fascinated by social media and its ability to connect us with others across the globe and to help lifelong learning, provide connections to lifelong learning. Does anybody recognise the symbol? Can anybody say what it is? This is the University of Bolton's motto: wisdom overcomes difficulty. The university dictionary expression of wisdom is the ability to think and act with knowledge, experience, understanding, common sense, and insight. Someone with wisdom said, "No man was wise ever by chance." And this is something that we need to consider. But to start with, a question for you all. What is your reason for being? What is your purpose? What is it that you want to achieve in your lives? And what people will you go to for the wisdom to help you get to where you want to go? Learning is messy, it's complicated, it's twisted, it needs supporting. And through the process of learning, we can procrastinate. In fact, when I was preparing this talk, I procrastinated looking at this particular picture, fascinated by actually how rope is being made. But when we think about learning, sometimes I've spoken to students and said, what will you do when you leave university? Are you going to stay on? Are you going to have further study? And one of my students recently said, no, I've been chained to this university for such a long time. I just want to get out into the world of work. But what they don't realise is that we have steep learning curves throughout our lives. Lifelong learning is an important part of everything that we do. We never stop learning. And what we need to do is to try and evoke that passion for learning, so people enjoy it. It's not just something that we do to meet the assessment criteria, to get to that next stage, to actually enjoy learning. Some of the barriers to lifelong learning or any type of learning, whether that's formal learning throughout your time at university or whether that's informal learning that you want to learn a new instrument or to ride a bike, to try a new sport, is confidence. The second thing is time. People often say to me or others, I don't have time to learn something new. When I talk about social media, they say I haven't got time to learn these things or look at it. And the other is motivation. So what motivates us to learn? Sometimes we put these invisible barriers in front of ourselves. So thinking about those three things. My mum always used to say to me, in quoting from a poem, I think from her childhood, if you can't go over something or over something, find a way round. And there is always a way round. There is always a way that we can improve what we know. And this is all part of lifelong learning. Something that's made a big difference to my life in recent years, an enabler, I would say, of my own lifelong learning, is the mobile phone. It's given me access to lots of information. One of the things that's helped that, of course, is the fact that we now have moved on to smartphones. We carry this mini computer with us day in and day out. So having access to Wi-Fi has changed things dramatically. A lot of our universities now have Wi-Fi. It's something that we take for granted. The third thing, should I say, is battery. That's something that frustrates us. That moment where the red battery sign comes up on your phone and we all panic and think, we need to connect, we need to get that. And that's something that technology needs to advance so that batteries last longer, but also within our universities, as students are using their mobile devices for learning, as tutors are using it to access information. We need to make sure that we've got the infrastructure so that there are power sockets in the classroom. So it's fine for students to be in there and to charge up their appliances and use the appliances that they've got for their learning. But of course, access to the internet has to come with a bit of a health warning. We're in a situation where we're in a danger of suffering from information overload. Or as Clay Shirky says, filter failure. So one of the things that we need to help each other is to find out how we get the right information. How can we critically analyse the stuff that we're actually looking at? There's so much there. And one of the things I feel really passionate about is developing a network of co-learners, not just the people in your own peer group, not even just in your own class or your own university, but people across the world. Because they can then filter information for you. Not everybody goes to university from school at the age of 18. I didn't go to university at the age of 18. I should have gone to university. I went to college and I had a place at Teachers Training College. I always wanted to teach. But I panicked. The roadblock, the obstacle for me was at the time teachers were coming out qualified and there weren't enough jobs. So I chose to apply for a job in a bank. I got my first interview, I got a job, and I spent the next 11 years there. I went to have 2 children, and the nearest I got to teaching at that particular time was resurrecting the play school, the local play school that was going to close down. So I rallied around some friends and we did some fundraising and we got all new toys, and I had the opportunity to be the nearest thing I could get to teaching at that time and loved every minute of it. I then worked part-time, my marriage broke up, so I had to work full-time. And it wasn't until 2004 when my life changed completely in lots of different ways. I got remarried, which was a really positive, happy time, but my father died of cancer. I was then made redundant from the job that I'd got. So I applied for a temp job at Sheffield Hallam University. I also started my first degree at the University of Sheffield, their Institute of Lifelong Learning, which gives opportunities for mature learners to do a degree in the evenings, just a couple of hours a week. It takes longer, but it was an opportunity, and that changed my life. And I've then since gone on to taking 2 master's degrees at Sheffield Hallam and a postgraduate certificate in learning and teaching. I'm now a senior fellow of the Higher Education Academy, and I teach in the Department of Computing, and I love my job. And I'm passionate about evoking the things that I've felt that have motivated me to learn and to continue to learn. So I'm going to tell you about 6 things, 6 words, 6 things that have made a difference to me and my approach to lifelong learning. Number 1 is self-belief. You have to believe you can do something. Sometimes that's hard as an individual. So look to others that can be your mentors and help you and support you and encourage you. And that can make all the difference. People at Sheffield Hallam believed in me, and I've had the opportunities, and I've grabbed those opportunities and looked for more. Number 2, curiosity. Always be curious. I was always in my classes the one that put my hand up and asked the questions. And afterwards people would say, thank goodness you asked that question, because I really wanted to know the answer to that. Don't be scared to ask questions. Serendipity. This is something where you find out things by chance. My passion with social media, I use my journey time to work each day looking at social media. I look at what people are tweeting. I always say Twitter's only as good as the people that you follow, but I learn something absolutely every day. That's serendipity. I never know what I'm going to come across. It's the creative exploitation of the unforeseen, using words from Danae's. Serendipity. Positive silent engagement. This is something that I've put together in place of the awful word lurking. People talk about lurking on social media. I don't tweet anything, I don't post anything, but I'm I'm listening. Listening's wonderful. We all learn as children through listening, through our parents, through our friends, and social media allows you to do that. So you can observe what everybody else is saying, build your confidence, and then start to contribute to those conversations yourself. Resilience. Learning's hard. I'm not going to pretend it's not hard. And you have to work at it. But if you think back to when you learnt to ride a bike, or maybe you learnt to play an instrument, you have to practice. And you have setbacks, and you think sometimes, I'm never going to get this, I'm never going to be able to understand. But you've just got to persevere and ask for help. And the final one is purpose. Thinking about what it is, what is your purpose for being? What is it that you actually want to achieve? And if you can find that goal, then you know what you've got to do to work towards it. So what if there was a way to use social media and connectedness to expand our lifelong learning? So a few years ago, a friend of mine, Christina Rancy, we had this shared idea. And one of the things that we came up with was to develop an online course called Bring Your Own Devices for Learning, which was a way to use your mobile devices to enhance learning and teaching. And we came up with something called the 5C framework. So this uses 5 C's: connect, communicate, curate, collaborate, and create. And that's what I want to share with you next. So number 1 is connect. Make connections with as many people as possible. Through social media, I've used LinkedIn and Twitter predominantly to connect with people that I know. Everybody in this room today, make sure that you connect with each other, because then you can have those conversations afterwards. It gives you a virtual door, knock on a door to anybody's office in the world, and people can be there to help you. Number 2 is communicate. Social media has grown exponentially. You know, sometimes when you think of social media, we think about Facebook and, you know, we're just talking about what we had for breakfast, what we did at the pub, and, you know, all these kind of social things, sharing our holiday photographs, which is absolutely fantastic and can be enjoyable, it can be amusing and all the rest of it. But this image here, the conversation prism, created by Brian Solis, demonstrates the whole vastness of the social media channels that are now available. It doesn't matter whether you're a runner or a knitter, there's a social networking group that you can join and learn from others. Curate. One of the things that I spoke about was the fact that there is so much information. So why don't we help each other when we're researching something? Why don't we curate that information and share that out? And today, again, social media provides a whole host of different tools, from blogging tools where you can gather information and blog a post out that you can then share with others so that they can learn from what you've learned. It could be social bookmarking, where you can collect lists of references. It could be a YouTube list or a collection of videos that you've put together and saved. And lots of other tools. Collaborate, one of the most important things. Working with others. We can do so much more when we work together rather than just alone. And learning together, co-learning, collaboratively, building things. And that's why in university, group work, teamwork is so important, because that's what we need to do in life and when you go on to get a job. Another project Chrissy and myself put together was something called LTHE Chat, and this is a weekly chat that's now been going for 3 years. So every Wednesday evening, educators from across the globe, predominantly the UK, but Europe, sometimes from America, Australia, we have a weekly topic, 6 questions, and for an hour, people tweet. Now, those of you that don't use Twitter might think, that sounds crazy. But over that hour, there are between 400 and 700 tweets, people sharing links to useful information. We have guests each week, so there's a different theme. We're looking for students to be part of that, so if anybody wants to lead a chat, just contact me. The other thing with collaboration is that it's a community project, the LTHE chat, and this was something that somebody tweeted after Helen Beethan led a chat on digital capabilities. So he reworked this matrix here, and at the top is digital well-being. So when I talked back about that information overload and critical thinking, that's really key. We need that in the forefront of our minds. And at the bottom is Wi-Fi. Which obviously is crucial to online learning. So this idea of collaboration takes us way beyond what we're learning every day and throughout our life. It's part of equipping yourself for effectiveness, problem solving, innovation and lifelong learning in an ever-changing network society. And finally, create. Create things and share them. So whether that is a blog or how-to guides, make sure that you can do that in some shape or form because it makes such a difference to everybody else's learning. Open learning is what we need to work towards. Be proud of what you know and share that with others. And do things differently. Take a chance. Be creative. We don't know creativity sometimes that we have. So try to do things differently, be innovative and different. And above all, find your reason for being. In Japan, it's known as ikigai, this reason for being. Wisdom overcomes difficulty, your motto. And interconnectedness and lifelong learning can open endless opportunities to share such wisdom. May you find your purpose and ultimately your ikigai. Thank you.